Mighty Goose is a run and gun action platformer that has just released on the Nintendo Switch. Promising fast paced and frantic action with a nod to some of the genre classics of old, is it worth a gander or should you set this goose loose? I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. So as mentioned then, Mighty Goose is a run and gun, much in the vein of classics such as Metal Slug and Contra, with Metal Slug in particular having been a big source of inspiration, judging by some of the gameplay mechanics and the stylistic choices. Playing as Mighty Goose, you must make your way across a number of stages, taking out a huge amount of enemies, with a variety of different weapon pickups dropped every so often. These range from machine guns, shotguns, rocket launchers and electricity based weapons, and each have a finite amount of ammo. Once this is gone, you'll return to your standard gun. Killing enemies earns you coins which can be spent in levels to acquire weapons, etc, and any coins not used are lost at the end of the stage, so it's worth using them if you are struggling. Goose can take a few hits before he loses a life, and this will take you back to the last checkpoint you reached. These aren't always marked out particularly clearly, so if you do lose a life there is generally a hold your breath moment as you wait to see how far back you're going to be taken, but the placement does seem fair if not entirely clear. At certain intervals you will find war machines, huge vehicles that are effectively the titular Metal Slugs from the aforementioned series, which as I said seems to have been a big influence on this game. Sometimes these sections are brief, the vehicle has its own life bar and will blow up when this is depleted, and at other times they make up a larger part of the level. You can also acquire them with your coins in much the same way as the weapons I mentioned earlier. They control very similarly to the vehicles in Metal Slug, with the D-pad or left stick moving your vehicle but also controlling the direction of your gun. It does take a bit of getting used to, but works as well as it always has done. To be fair, there are a few other mechanics at play. For starters, you can find companions throughout the game, some of whom are hidden, and you can choose which of these accompany you on a level. They each have a particular skill, with the first proper one that you come across having the ability to keep you stocked up on machine gun ammo. You also have a special meter located on the left of the screen that fills with every enemy you kill. Racking up combo kills fills this faster, and pressing ZL and ZR at the same time when full will activate it. You will become invincible during this time and deal more damage to enemies. In between levels you can visit the armory, and from here there are further customization options. You will unlock particular skills as you complete levels and can then equip these to do things such as increase your walking speed or fill up your special meter quicker. They are each worth a particular value and you have a bar at the top that you cannot exceed. It's quite a clever way of dealing with upgrades. Finally, you will unlock secondary weapons through playing, and again these can be equipped in the armory. Each has a set number of uses or a cooldown period between uses. Mighty Goose is also available in local co-op, with player 2 taking on the role of the companion character rather than them being AI controlled. It may well have worked better if the game had just allowed both characters to play as a variation of the Goose, although this may have led to some balancing issues in terms of difficulty, but it does mean you have to unlock some decent companions before player 2 can really get involved. Stages are fast and frenetic with a fair level of difficulty, nowhere near as hard as the games that have inspired it. As well as traditional levels, there are also a few deviants, such as an arena where you must kill waves of enemies, and all levels end with a boss encounter. For the most part, these are large, screen-filling foes which put up a good challenge as you learn the patterns. Control-wise, things are very responsive. Goose does feel as if he moves quite slowly, although there is a perk to assist with this, but it would have been nice if his default speed was a bit quicker. And jumping does also feel a bit floaty to begin with, but then you realise that you can jump and shoot downward, killing enemies in a rain of bullets, and then the floaty nature makes more sense. The main downside though is that there is no way to lock yourself in place while shooting, something that I always appreciate in such games, but it's not a major issue, and again to be fair, if memory serves me right, the original Metal Slug didn't have this either. Gameplay is hugely enjoyable, perhaps a little easy in terms of this particular genre, but very satisfying, and scores 17 out of 20. Controls work well and assist the player with the calls, and they score 16 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, Mighty Goose adopts a pixel art style with chunky sprites and a bold colour palette. There's a good variety in terms of the levels, and whilst perhaps not as much variety in terms of enemies, there are still a few different ones to keep things interesting, including some stage specific ones. Performance wise, the frame rate is incredibly consistent, running at a solid 60 frames per second, and I don't remember any drops in frames no matter how frantic the action got. In handheld mode things run just as well, and it's perfectly suited to play in this way, if of course you're not playing in co-op. The frantic action does cause one issue in that sometimes it becomes quite difficult to keep track of what's going on. You have your bullets, you have the enemy's bullets, the spent shells ejecting from guns, and pieces of enemies staying temporarily on screen as you kill them. As a spectacle it looks fantastic, but from a more practical viewpoint, a large percentage of the health or occasionally the lives I lost was down to just not being able to see enemy bullets anymore. When it comes to the audio, the eShop description states that this game includes both synth rock and jazz fusion melodies. Now whilst I must say I did enjoy the music and found it to be of a very high standard, I didn't feel it always suited the action on screen. Now I will be fair and say that there are some very clever moments, such as the start of a level which sees you exploring a mining colony. Everything is quiet to begin with the music helping to create a creepy ambience before things kick off and it ramps up to accompany this shift in tone. Other times it's not quite as effective as this, but that doesn't detract from the quality of what's on offer, perhaps just how it was implemented at times. A voice will announce when a mission starts or when it is completed, as well as stating when you pick up a weapon, and again this is very similar to that used in the Metal Slug series. Visuals are bold and bright and performance is very good. Perhaps more could have been done to differentiate enemy bullets from everything else, but nonetheless, visuals score 16 out of 20. In terms of the music itself, audio is of a very high standard, it just doesn't always fit the on-screen action quite as well, and it also scores 16 out of 20. Mighty Goose costs £15.09 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. It takes perhaps 2 or 3 hours to finish, although this is very much skill dependent, and completing the game unlocks a new hard mode. This is where a lot of the replayability will come from, so if you are a one and done type player with no interest in attempting the game again at a higher difficulty, then knock a couple of points off the upcoming value score. I will say I do think the price is too high, but I will give credit for the high production values and the inclusion of a local co-op mode, even if it's not quite perfect. But you can buy the Metal Slug games for about £6 each, and the Contra Anniversary Collection for roughly the same price that this game is selling for. There's some stern competition right there, which makes the price point harder to justify, as much as I do appreciate the quality of the product. Value scores 12 out of 20. To conclude, Mighty Goose is a very good run and gun, which has clearly borrowed heavily from genre classics, but does add a few of its own ideas and mechanics and wraps it all up in a nice high quality package. The price is too high when you consider the competition, but I'd hate to see it completely ignored because of this, as I did have a lot of fun with it. I would say it's a prime candidate to go on a wishlist until it goes on a decent sale. Mighty Goose gets a SwitchUp score of 77%. Thank you everybody for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe of course, and until next time, happy gaming.
Blah 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 blah